Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webcast, Salesforce Community 101, Effectively Engaging Customers. My name is Kaylin Hensley, Marketing Coordinator with GSI. I am also very pleased to welcome our main presenter, Jim McGrath. Jim is the co-founder of 7 Points Consulting, and he is a certified Salesforce.com consultant with over 12 years of SFDC experience. Now, before we get started, I wanted to give you a chance to review our Safe Harbor statement. Now for a quick overview of today's meeting, which will last about 60 minutes. First, we would like to take a moment to go over a couple of housekeeping items as well as provide a brief company overview. Then, we will turn it over to Jim to get into our main presentation, which will last about 40 minutes. Next, we'll take a minute to go over upcoming educational events. And then we'll wrap up with a 10-minute Q&A session. If you would like to submit a question, you can do so through the questions panel at the bottom of the GoToWebinar console window located on the right side of your screen. Please note that questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So if you would like to minimize your GoToWebinar console during the presentation, just click the right-facing arrow key on the top left of the console. Clicking the left arrow key will return the console so that you can input your questions. And now I would like to give you a brief overview of GSI. GSI is a full-service Salesforce consulting organization. We were founded in 2004 and now have over 100 employees. We have offices nationwide and are recognized on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest-growing companies in the U.S. GSI specializes in project consulting, managed services, and other services, with all of our services backed with a 100% guarantee. GSI also provides a broad spectrum of business, functional, and technical consulting services for Oracle JD Edwards, Oracle NetSuite, Oracle Cloud, ServiceNow, and other enterprise applications. We also offer an extensive array of cloud hosting solutions for Oracle Cloud, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and JDE Cloud 9. Now I would like to turn things over to Jim for our main presentation and demo.
Thank you so much. This is Jim McGrath with 7 Points, and I'm just going to get my screens going here. Kaylin, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to talk to you a bit today about effectively engaging your customers using Salesforce.com communities. So Salesforce.com communities is kind of that second act, if you will, within Salesforce that most customers get to after they've implemented either Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, and now they're looking at ways to extend the platform and to start pulling in their customers and their partners so that they can effectively engage with them and share the information that has been gathered in Salesforce. So a little bit about me. As Kaylin said, I'm the co-founder of 7 Points Consulting. We're a Salesforce.com implementation partner located in Michigan. I am certified on the Salesforce platform. I have over 12 years of experience working with Salesforce technologies and about 35 years of experience working in the IT space itself. About GSI and 7 Points, so together we provide services across North America, all 50 states and Canada. Most of our consultants have over 7 years of experience providing consultation. Many of our consultants have multiple certifications, but 70 of them have at least one. And we do have certified project managers and scrum masters. So why is that important? Well, because when you engage with a partner like 7 Points to help you on your journey to use this technology, you want consultants who have looked at different business problems and have been able to apply best practices and knowledge of how that problem was solved with other customers to your particular problem as well. So you get that nice blend of technical experience plus kind of business know-how and business chops, if you will. All right, so let's talk about the customer experience. So why do we want to spend time and money expanding our Salesforce platform to service our customers? And the real main reason is acquiring customers is very expensive. When you look at the amount of time and money that companies spend on sales and marketing activities, and the amount of time that it takes a sales rep to find and close a new customer, we're looking at a significant investment in time and money. And so when you are lucky enough to sell to a new customer, you really want to keep that customer for life. That is truly the goal. And the other key reason is that selling to an existing customer is a lot easier than selling to a brand new customer. And that's because your sales team has spent the time educating that customer, building that relationship, and building the trust. And frankly, when customers do business with you and they realize that your products and your services are as good as you said they were, their trust of your organization grows quite a bit. So you want to give them every opportunity to continue to do more business with you. So the other reason to do it is because, frankly, your customers are expecting it. So most customers today are younger, savvier, and are looking for the ability to interact with you in different means, with different means and in different media. So being able to support them online, being able to support them with mobile devices and other tech is really critical. They want to be able to interact with you when it's convenient for them and not convenient for you. So is there kind of a standard formula for engagement? Well, yes and no. So there are some patterns that hold across different industry segments. But as this slide shows, there's a lot of variability. So a financial services company is going to be looking to provide different services than, say, a healthcare company. So while there are some common threads that will run through those different industry segments, understanding your segment and understanding what your customers are looking for from you is really the key to success when you're trying to engage them in any fashion, but especially with the Salesforce community. So how do you figure out what do your customers need? Well, the very best way to do that is to frankly ask them. Spend time listening to your customer-facing employees in your organization. So talk to your salespeople, talk to your marketing people, talk to your support people, talk to people who are talking to customers on a daily basis and get information from them. And then grab some of those customers. You know, those customers that you've spent time working with for a period of time will gladly tell you what they think. They would love to see you invest in some solutions that will help them use your product or use your service more effectively. So assemble a small team of customers, focus group, if you will. Ask them some questions, maybe give them some ideas to help focus the conversation. But they really are your best source for trying to figure out what your community should be. And the other nice thing about gathering a group of highly energized and focused customers is that they'll also work with you when you have something ready to show. So it's always a great idea after you've spent time working with a focus group to actually circle back with them and show them what you've come up with and get their input as you go. From my experience standing up communities for a lot of different clients, those customers that we bring in to do these sort of focus group sessions really do become advocates within the community itself, and will also jump on board to help with any beta testing, providing you feedback on styles, colors, content. So I can't say enough great things about spending the time very early on in your planning process to go identify those stakeholders that will become your focus group and really mine them for good information. The other thing that I can recommend very strongly to everybody on the call here is really spending time before you even think about what pages to put up on your community and what features to put together, is really plan it out. And Salesforce has put together a very nice structured document called the Community Management Canvas. You can use this to help you focus your business goals. It gives you some structure so that as you're listening to ideas from your stakeholders and from your customer-facing employees, you'll have a place to kind of put that together. And it frankly helps you build the business case, right? You're going to make an investment, your company's going to make an investment in building this community, both in terms of technical costs with Salesforce licensing, and certainly with costs for consultants and developers who will build the pages for you. So you want to get that structure put together so that you can go make the business case and answer the question, you know, why should I spend money building out this community? What's in it for me, right? You want to be able to answer that to your senior management and to your executive teams. So I've got a link here on the slides, which will be available to you, or you can just Google Community Management Canvas and you'll see this planning form out there. It's a really nice starting point. It would really help you kind of get some structure and put together a nice business case and a project planning document, if you will, as you start to build out the justification for a community. All right, so what are the best practices for engaging customers on their community? Well, a couple of things. Number one, make the navigation easy. Make it really obvious how to get around. Make case deflection a part of it. So what do I mean by that? So customers that are used to calling you to ask a question or send you an email or even fill out a web form to get a case in front of your support people, give them the opportunity to do that on the community and give them the ability to interact with that case, therefore reducing the amount of time they have to spend and your support team has to spend. Encourage engagement. Give them things that are going to keep them coming back. Give them features and functions that they're asking for to help them use your product or use your service more effectively. Make search prominent. Make it easy for them to search and find things that may be of interest to them. Target content for your different audiences. So one thing you want to think about as you're planning out your community is understand that for any given company or customer of yours, there's going to be different stakeholders or different users that will have a different need for your community. So you might have a customer who wants to see their order history, and that might be somebody in procurement, or it might be somebody in a back office role. You might have other people who are interested in seeing product information or seeing information on how to best configure a product that you offer. So there's going to be different types of users, and you want to kind of think about how to make that content available to those various different audiences. And lastly, you want to ask them for feedback. So within the community, give them the opportunity to send you feedback, give them the opportunity to suggest new features or share some ideas, and take that information and incorporate that into your strategy and your development plans. Okay, so why are we looking at Salesforce Communities? You know, there's lots of different web technologies out there. You could put up a website pretty quickly with WordPress or other technologies. So why Salesforce? Well, a big part of it is that, number one, it comes with pre-built components. So the ability to stand up a community using some drag and drop components is pretty straightforward. I've used WordPress, I've used other web building technologies, and the Salesforce Community Builder is as good or better than many of them out there. You do have different custom themes that you can pick from as kind of a starting point. Design and development is fairly straightforward once you've got a good understanding of what you want to do. And most importantly, the Salesforce community is built on the same platform as your existing Salesforce solution. So it really is that single source of truth. So information that you've collected in your Salesforce community can be easily shared with a customer or a partner on the community. And it's really up to you to decide what you want to share and how much of an individual record you want to share. And lastly, the community was really built with mobile in mind. So all of the pages, all of the components are responsive, meaning they'll resize themselves automatically for a tablet or for a mobile device such as an iPhone or Android. So all of that comes standard with the community. So how do we go about building a community? Well, the building block for the community is what's called the Lightning Community Builder. It is a component that comes with Salesforce. You do have to have Salesforce community licensing for this component to be available to you. So if you're in Salesforce and you're going into the setup screen and looking for Community Builder and you don't see it, that's because you don't have the required licensing to activate that component. But once the licenses are in place, you'd be able to get into the Community Builder. It allows you to stand up a community and to customize the pages either with standard components that come with the Salesforce community, or you can build your own components and add those to your pages as you need. So a lot of it now is drag and drop, and with the ability to add additional widgets and components as you need to satisfy your customers. So building a community is pretty straightforward. What you can do is really start with one of the existing templates. There's a handful of different templates that you can choose from, and you really pick the template that's closest to the type of community you want. So there's the Napoli template that's designed for customer service, meaning you want to be able to stand up a community where customers can interact with you, open cases, review knowledge articles, things of that nature. And the demo that I'm going to show you shortly here is built on that particular template because we built a sample community that was designed to give customers the ability to interact with us in a way that would make good sense for them. So starting with the right template is your first step. And once you have a template selected, you start the process of generating the community. There's a number of setup steps that you go through to define who can have access to the community, what the color scheme is going to be, what different email templates you might want to use for welcomes and password resets, things of that nature. So once you have that initial setup done, you go into the Community Lightning Builder. This panel here is your component selector. You get to pick all the different components, and there's a fair number that come with the Salesforce community, kind of standard components. But as I mentioned, you also have the ability to build custom components. So you may have a feature that customers are demanding, and there is no standard component that will provide that. So you would build your own component and then use that where you need. The nice thing about components is that when you're designing them, it's quite easy to build a component that can be used on several different pages or in different places within your community. So one of the nice things about the component structure is that you can build it and reuse it. So a nice thing to keep in mind as you're looking at how you want to customize your community to suit your needs. The community builder comes with a number of features that allows you to brand it. So any of the marketing folks or marketing aware people that are on the call here, you do get to set your color schemes. You can load your image files so that you can use those across. So we've done a number of communities for customers where they want the look and feel of the community to be fairly similar to their corporate websites or their other web properties. So the Salesforce Community Builder allows you to incorporate those styles so that as you build pages within the community, you're keeping consistent with the look and feel that your company has invested in. So that branding can be carried on into the community, and you can make it as seamless as you would like. Okay. And then, as I mentioned, right, this is one platform where you get to share those records and that information that's in your internal Salesforce system with your community users. So the Salesforce security model is quite robust, and with communities, we can determine or we can decide what records we want to show to our customers. So in the demo site that I'm going to show you, we've set it up so that customers can interact with us through case records. So they're allowed to view their cases, they're allowed to update their cases and interact with their cases. but we don't give them anything else. You could, if you wanted to, give them access to contact records and let them update contacts. You could give them access to account records. You could give them access to other records, including custom objects that you may have created in your Salesforce org. So it's really up to you to decide how you want to share information with your community users. And it's a very malleable construct, so it's quite flexible, and you can show whatever you would like or hide whatever you think is appropriate to hide from your customers. So very malleable platform. And again, the benefit of using a Salesforce community over, say, a standard website is that the data is all there. So it's just a matter of you kind of lighting it up and deciding what you want to share with your community users. There's no integrations that you have to worry about with a website or any other web property. It's all contained within the Salesforce community. And then once you've configured your community, you've got your styling done, you've got your pages laid out the way you want, you can easily share that internally with your other users, have them check it out before you publish it to the outside world. You can set it up so that just a small subset of your customers can come into your community. Maybe you want your beta testers in and nobody else. So you really do have control over who gets access to it and how they can interact with that community. All right, enough slideware. Let's flip over to a live community and let's check it out from there. So I'm going to switch over to one of my browsers. And I'm in a sandbox community, a sandbox org. And as some of you may know, the best way to get into a community that you've configured in your Salesforce org is through one of your contacts. So let me back up from that a little bit. So access to communities is a bit different than access to standard Salesforce. So those of you that have Salesforce today, you're used to logging into Salesforce, typically using your email address as your ID and a password, and that would take you into a screen like this, okay? So I'm logged into Salesforce as an internal user. Community users are set up slightly different. Community users always are set up as contacts first. So a community user must be a contact associated to an account, and you activate that contact to become a community user. So there's a little action here where you can, this one's already enabled, but if Marty McFly here was not already on the community, it would say enable customer user. And when you would enable the customer user, it would take you to a user screen, which looks like the same screen that you use for internal users. But a community user is always connected to a contact. That's the difference, okay? So getting into the community for testing purposes is typically done through this link here, log into community as user. So from a community, from a contact record that you have enabled on your community, you can click on this link here, which will take you into the community, okay? And I've done that here. I've got another tab open for that. So I've now logged into the community. I'm signed in as Marty McFly. I can access my profile and my settings here as well. And so we've set up this sample community. So we've set up Foodie. Foodie is a sample community that we've created for a fictitious food services company that's all about providing healthy and appealing food through a series of different offerings. And notice the most prominent thing on the top of this community is a search bar, right? We want to make it really easy for our community users to find things. So we have a search bar here. We have our navigation menu here. This is all configurable. So we've got our little home button here. Our users can get to cases, they can look at knowledge articles, and we've got a contact us page. We've got some buttons here on the front page where if they want to ask a question, they can go ahead and pop open a question, or they can contact support directly. So we're giving them a lot of different ways right on the front page to interact with us. Let's flip over to our cases tab. So what we've configured for this demo is we want a logged in user, so this is a logged in community user, we want them to have access to their cases. So you would use this in the context where you have customers who need support or ask questions on a regular basis. Give them the ability to interact with those cases provide additional information if necessary. So as a community user, you give them access to their cases. It's typical to only allow them to update certain fields on a case, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes. We're also giving our community users access to different articles. Articles are part of the knowledge solution that Salesforce has put together. So as you create content for both internal and external use, you can go ahead and publish those articles. So we've got a couple of sample ones here. Here's one on how to reduce overhead costs in your restaurant. Clicking on that will bring up the article. It's nice and colorful. It's got lots of good images. All of that is supported in the knowledge article solution. And when I'm done with that, I can go back and explore some different articles. You have the ability to set up different topic areas. So you can create different topics and then assign articles to those topics. That's one way to make the articles easy for your customers to kind of discover. And then lastly, on this community, we've created a contact us form. So we want to make it easy for our community users to log a question or log a case. This particular form on the community will actually create a case within Salesforce. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill in a test one just to show you. I'll just call this test case 18 September 19, 18, and let's just put in here, I have some product questions. We give them the ability, if they had supporting files, maybe there's a screenshot or there's some other document they want to send with the case, they could go ahead and upload that here. I'm just going to go ahead and submit. And it lets them know your case has been submitted, here's your number, and we'll be getting back to you soon, okay? So that case has actually been created in Salesforce. So those of you that are familiar with the case feature in Salesforce, this case has now been sent into Salesforce. It's sitting now in the incoming case queue, and the support center would pick this case up and triage it and respond back to it accordingly, okay? So that's a quick tour of the community. So this community, I'm simulating me logged in as Marty McFly. But what would this community look like if I wasn't logged in, right? You do have the ability, if your needs require it, you can make some or all of your community public facing, meaning they don't need to sign in to interact with you. So I'm gonna flip over to my other browser here. I'm in my Safari browser now. And it's the same community, it's the same URL, but notice instead of identifying me as a logged in user, it's giving me the option to log in. And we've created this little component here where it says you're not logged in, please log in for a personalized experience. This is actually a custom component that we built. And this component only shows up if you're not logged in, right? Same homepage other than that. And when you look behind the scenes in the community, it's one single page that's just rendering itself slightly different because of the fact that this person visiting you is not authenticated. Okay, so there's no login. So how does the community behave now that I'm not logged in? Well, if I go to cases, we get this message here. It says looking for cases, you'll need to log into the community. So in this particular feature, we've instead of showing them cases because we don't know who they are, we've gone ahead and put this message up. Now you could argue, well, why are you showing them the cases tab at all if they can't do anything with it? Well, because I want them to understand that they can interact with cases if they're logged in. So you do have a choice. I could have hidden this tab altogether, but in this particular case, I want to kind of tempt them a bit more to understand that there are features you're missing out on because you're not logged in. With articles, we decided to give them access to all of our articles, so we made these public. And the Contact Us page is slightly different. There's no ability for them to select which contact they might want to associate it to, but we do give them the ability to enter a case by entering a subject and a description, okay? So that's a different view of the community as a guest user. All right, so let me take you back here. So we talked about various features that we've made available on this community. We've got our cases available, we've got articles, and we've got a contact us form. Let's go take a quick look at cases and how would you potentially set that up. So here's that test case that I just opened just a few minutes ago. If I click on that, it's going to open up the case, and I can see some of the information that's available in the case. So this information here that I'm looking at, this is all driven by configuration inside of Salesforce. So you would decide if you wanted to show them all of these fields or not. It's really up to you which fields you want. Notice that I can't, none of these fields are clickable. I can't edit these fields, so I can't do anything other than read the information. And that's a decision, right? Not most, but some customers choose to allow their customers to review a case but not change the information that's already been gathered. Typically what you would do though is you would give your customers the ability to give you case comments. So if I was the customer, I might want to say, hey, I'm really in need of this information. Would appreciate a call back. And whatever else you want to say. By saving that, it's now in the record, and it's likely that this has been set up to notify somebody. As soon as a customer appends a comment to a case, a support analyst would typically be notified that, hey, there's a case that now has a comment on it. It's up to, again, it's up to you to decide how you want to interact with your support team, but that's a common use case that we see where when customers are updating cases, we want the support team to take note of the fact that that case has been updated. Okay, so that's one way that you can set up cases to interact with your customers. Articles, again, are out here, and I'm going to show you in a minute how do you add more articles. We just have a couple samples out here, but these different articles were set up to give the users good information about topics that we believe are important to them as food service professionals. And then the contact us form, okay? So let's talk about these articles. So how do articles come into being? How do we get more articles? How do we get more content published? And how do we control who's allowed to produce content for the community? So I'm gonna go back into internal Salesforce. So I'm back in Salesforce. And we have knowledge configured in this org. Knowledge is a feature license within Salesforce. It's not a terribly expensive feature. And you only need knowledge licenses for those users who are going to author and or approve knowledge articles. So you don't need a knowledge license for every user in the system. You only need it for essentially the content producers and the content approvers, okay? So this is an article that I created for this demo. It is an article on how to run a successful coupon marketing campaign. And it's currently in draft mode, okay, which means it's not available for users to consume. It's not available on the community. It's not available for internal users either, okay? So again, the whole theme of one platform, multiple uses. Knowledge articles can be both private, meaning they're for internal use only, or they can be public, meaning you want to use them for your internal users, but you also want to give your external users the ability to view them as well. And again, that's all under your control. So this is the content that we've created for this particular article. And I've already gone ahead and marked how I want this article to be shared. So I want it available in my public knowledge base, and I also want it visible to my logged in customers and my logged in partners. Okay, so these are all settings that you can control on the article. Typically what would happen in a company that's using knowledge is you would have authors, meaning those people that are authorized to create knowledge articles, and then you have reviewers, and those would typically be an editor or a support manager or somebody in a role where their job is to review content and approve it for publication, okay? So assuming that I'm that person, I'm gonna go ahead and publish this article. When I go ahead and when I publish it, it'll ask me, do you want to publish it now or do you want to do it on a schedule? I'm gonna say, well, let's publish it now, okay? So that's my article now published. if I go back into my list views here, I'll look at my published articles, and there's my newly published article right there. Okay, so let's go back to our community and do a quick refresh here. And it's not going to show up just yet, but let's see if we can find it. So I just typed in 3 letters, and you can see there's the article right there. So there's my article that I just published. Okay, but notice it didn't show up in any of my assigned topics. Okay, and the reason is because I haven't made the connection between the article and the topic. So I'm going to go into this section within the community administration, and I'm going to refresh this page real quick. Oops. I'm not going to refresh that page. Okay. Popping in and out of different user roles in the same browser sometimes leads to that. But this is this community workspace is where I would make the linkage to the topic. So once I make the linkage, that article would show in whichever topic I have created. So I'd probably put that one under boosting profits. Is typically where I'd link it. And you can link an article to multiple topics. It doesn't have to be one-to-one. You might have an article that spans across different topics that you've created. You can go ahead and associate that article to more than one topic. Okay, so that's how you publish. Publishing articles is a big way that a lot of customers will make content available. And then lastly, you can set it up so that your customers can help each other. So you can choose to turn on this feature called Chatter Answers, and I'm looking for ideas on coupon marketing. So you can ask questions, and other users in the system can see those questions and can respond to them. They can upvote them as a good answer. Your moderator, if you have a moderator set up on your community, can also weigh in on your answers as well. So you can give the community the ability to help each other. You can let them ask questions. You can moderate those questions. You can have other users respond to those questions. There are a fair number of features in the community that would allow you to filter out, let's just call them bad actors. If you have some people on your community that may not be behaving well and using language that's not appropriate, you can identify that stuff and either hold it back or remove it completely. There's a number of different content control features within the community as well. Communities, by the way, one thing that I tell a lot of our clients, do require care and feeding. So when you set up and spend the time to invest in a community, it does require somebody to administer it. You need to make sure that content is kept fresh. You need to make sure if you're using Chatter Answers that someone's moderating. You know, if questions get asked and they don't get answered in a fairly reasonable amount of time, customers can get dissatisfied. So it's common to have a moderator who might step in if the community doesn't answer the question in, say, a day. They would step in and provide the answer on behalf of the company. So think about that too. When you're setting up a community, you want to think about the role of the community administrator and the moderator who's going to take care of it, make sure that it continues to stay relevant and continues to stay fresh in the minds of your customers. And that is everything that I've had to show you. Let's flip back to my slides here real quick. So I think we're going to turn it over to Q&A, and we'll take any questions that may have popped up while you looked at the information that I just shared with you.
Thanks, Jim. Now I would like to cover a few follow-up items and then move to our question and answer section of the webcast. Our webcast today is part of GSI's free ongoing educational webcast series on Salesforce. Our upcoming webcasts are listed on the screen. To view our most up-to-date schedule, please visit getgsi.com/Salesforce webcasts. GSI provides extensive free educational resources for the Salesforce community, including our weekly educational webcasts, online resource center where you can access any of our recorded on-demand webcasts, white papers, etc., and on-site and virtual workshops. If you would like to sign up for our weekly email reminders or upcoming webcasts, go to getgsi.com, go to Platforms on the main menu, select Salesforce, then select the appropriate link on the left. While I see that we've already had several questions submitted online, I would like to remind everyone that if you would still like to submit a question, you can do so using the Questions panel in the GoToWebinar console window on the right of your screen. If you minimized your console earlier, please click the left arrow to redisplay the Questions panel. All right, our first question comes from Larry, and it says, I have Salesforce.com Service Cloud licenses. Is that sufficient for setting up community users?
Hi, Larry. This is Jim. Great question. The answer is no. In order to stand up a community, you do need community licenses. So that's a conversation that you'll need to have with your Salesforce rep. And there's a number of different licenses, so you really want to talk to your Salesforce rep about what you're trying to do. One of the things that you want to keep in mind is there's essentially two buckets of licenses or types of licenses. There are named user licenses, meaning, so if you've got a community of say 100 users and they're expected to be in quite frequently to interact with you, you should probably consider just buying named user licenses for them. That's going to be the most cost-effective way for that type of user. For customers that are in not so often, right? You may have a community that's seasonal, or you may have a user base that's going to come in, maybe once a quarter. You can also buy what are called login per month or login per period licenses, where you just have to estimate how many logins you're going to average in a given time frame, and you essentially buy a pool of logins. So that's the other way to do it. So it's really going to depend on your usage model or your forecasted usage model. And you can mix them too. You can have, I do have a number of customers that have a set of named licenses because they have a lot of customers that are coming in all the time, and they have some infrequent customers that they're going to give the login licenses to. So you can mix and match them to fit your profile.
Okay, thanks Larry and thanks Jim. Our next question comes from Alan, and it says, is knowledge included with my base sales or service cloud licenses?
No, that's what's called a feature license. You do have to have at least one feature license in your org in order to activate the knowledge feature. So again, you'll need to talk to your Salesforce rep. And just keep in mind, with feature licenses like this, knowledge, you only need enough licenses to cover your authors and your approvers. So for a lot of organizations, we're not talking a huge number. I've got one customer that has 75 support reps in their call center, and they have 6 knowledge licenses. So that's enough to cover the few people that create the content and approve it. So it's just going to depend on your organization and your anticipated use.
Okay, thanks Alan and thanks Jim. The next question comes from Jamie, who asks, how can I control which Salesforce.com records are viewable on the community?
That's a great question, and there's not a short answer for that, but let me kind of summarize it for you. So within Salesforce, you have the ability through profiles and org-wide defaults and permission sets to define what users can get to what information. That same construct also applies to community users. So a community user, when they log in, is going to have a profile assigned to them. You can control which records within Salesforce they're going to be able to view or update based on that profile. There's another dimension of security with Salesforce Communities called audiences. So when you set up a community, you can set up at the page level, or even down at the component level, what types of users get to interact with that component or page. So you do have a lot of control, both through the standard Salesforce security and through the use of community audiences.
All right, thanks Jamie and thanks Jim. The next question comes from Tina, and she asked, how do I create features or pages for my community if they aren't included in the standard templates?
So that's where you come to companies like 7 Points and GSI. So there's a fair number of pages that come with the templates, and a lot of customers find that they can stand up a basic community using those standard pages or standard components. But as you start to look at your industry and some things that your customers are asking you for, you may need to define some new page templates, and you may need to define some new components, and that's where the experienced consultants at 7 Points and GSI can help you do that.
All right, thanks Tina and thanks Jim. Our next question comes from Alyssa, and she says, will we receive materials from this webinar?
I think we can certainly do that, can't we, Caitlin?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll make those available to everybody here.
All right, thank you, Alyssa, and thank you, Jim. And then our final question comes from Jeffrey, and it says, does community support multiple languages?
Yes, it does, Jeffrey. There is support for multiple languages in the community, just as there is in internal Salesforce. For knowledge articles, though, I believe you have to develop the content for that article in the language that you want it to be viewed in. So what you saw in my demo here today were obviously English articles, but if I was supporting, say, Quebec in Canada, which does have a requirement for French as well, I would have to have a French version of that article. And I would probably set up my community so that I had ability to group articles by language, so that my French-speaking community users could easily mine through the French articles and vice versa. I do the same thing for English as well.
All right, thanks Jim and thanks Jeffrey. Okay, that appears to be the end of the questions. Thank you, Jim, and everyone for your questions today. As a follow-up from today's webcast, we ask that you can complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit. You will be receiving an email with a link to our resource center on our website, where you can access the recording from today's webcast as well as a copy of the presentation. After today's webcast, we will do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card. Anyone who attended the entire webcast will be eligible. We will notify the winner. If you have any questions, you can contact Jim or I, and we will get back to you. Our contact information is on the screen. Thanks again for attending our presentation, and have a great day.